Hi, my name is Silindokuhle Shandu. Well, I think it took me 3 days to kind of figure out what it was that I might be doing here. I wanted to think about ritual and how we partake in rituals, whether we are aware of it or not. In the forest, my original thought was to pose nude. Like, all I knew was that I wanted a nude shot somewhere. I've more so now been drawn into figuring out how I can layer what I already do, which is collage. And I'm trying to figure out how I can use the natural things that you find around here to layer onto the collages in a way that will add to what's already going on and kind of carry on the narrative or the story that I'm trying to tell. When I think about why I wanted to do it, I think it's just to reclaim my ownership of my own body. On my 6th day of residency here, I was hungry to photograph something that was a little bit more grittier than what we have going on in the property, and I figured that I wanted to go and photograph people somewhere that is more of a public setting. If I had a wide enough lens that day, I would have been able to capture this voluntary segregation that was going on. I think my challenge at the moment is really figuring out a way to tell their stories in a respectful way, in a way that also isn't like, I'm trying my best not to impose my personal opinions on the things that they said, but to just write from what they shared. So yeah, another local, he apparently had just arrived because we couldn't even communicate. He didn't even know English, but I could make out that he wanted to get a photo. I spent a lot of time on my phone editing collages, but in a way it was still nice because it was in front of a huge window and I could still look out and see trees and birds and things. In my proposal, I kind of spoke about figuring out ways to bring in nature. I was thinking about physically bringing nature onto the collages, but what ended up happening is I still brought in nature because when you see the collages, you'll see that the backdrops are um, photos of things and places that I've shot within the residency in and around the area. This is obviously made up of the images that were taken by Josie. And then as I was going through the photos, it occurred to me that the way that I was posing could be turned into a collage. And then when I sat down to do the collages, I realized that I could mimic the geometry and repetition in nature. The way that the poses looked reminded me of something ancestral. And then the backgrounds were obviously things that I'd seen in Bodhi, and that was, I guess, me trying to bring it around to being in Bodhi and how being there brought up those feelings. I also just thought of how my body has carried me and how DNA and all of those things work, and the fact that there were many people who've walked this earth before me and who make up my DNA. So this is my late uncle, yes, and his mother, and just also acknowledging my body for it carrying me and holding me through difficult times, good times and bad times. In a few years' time, I'm gonna look back and think, I'm so glad I did that.